In 9 months, I turned this abandoned $160,000 18-room apartment building with no tenants and no income into an $800,000 property with huge passive cash flow. Here is how I did it. I'm going to cut a couple of pieces of the molding. I'm going to start with the washroom doors, since I've never done this before. There was a notch at the bottom for the baseboard, which is tile, and then I cut the angle for the cross piece to go across. So I'm just opening up this nail gun, I don't know if you call it a brad nail or whatever, and I've got a bunch of nails here, and this is it. Never used one before. I've seen it on videos, but so I just flip the clip here, and this spring thing comes out, and I put a row of nails in there and click it in place. So the nails are loaded in the gun, and outside I have my air tank, which I use for spraying the paint. So I'm going to use the same thing, and we have to adjust the pressure though for the gun. And of course it doesn't tell you exactly. It says between 0.4 and 0.8 MP something MPAs. I'm going to assume that means 40 to 80 pounds of pressure.
Okay, I'm going to put it at 60.
The gun. No explosions yet, that's a good sign. I have a piece for the crosses at the top, which is, obviously we have to cut it. So I'm going to test it on this piece at the end, just to see, because I want to make sure that the nails go deep enough into the trim material so that you don't see them, but not so much that they go right inside and then they don't hold anything. So let's just see what happens. Say some prayers for me. Oh yes, and I saw in the video you're supposed to do it this way for the up and downs. Wow, that's very sensitive. A hair trigger, I would have to say. And I'm just going to check here. It certainly went inside. I finished putting the trim on the inside of the doors, the entrance doors, and also you can see over here and the washroom doors. Now I still have to go back and fill all the holes with some DAP, all the little nail holes from the nail gun that I used. But you can see he's pretty cool. It looked pretty rough before. And I used the narrow trim inside because they're short doorways, and also there's not a lot of space. So the same on the entrance door, so I used the smaller one. So now I'm going to be moving to the outside, and outside I have instead of 5 centimeter or 4 centimeters, it's a 10 centimeter trim. It's actually a baseboarding, but I wanted to give a little bit of an impact for something kind of heavy looking and something not too expensive. So I went with the baseboard, and so you can see it's going to cover up most of this junk here. And now I'm just making the decision about the bottom. Now you see at the bottom here, they brought the door frame below the floor level. Now I'm not any kind of expert, but I don't know what the reason they did this was. But when we painted to the bottom of the wood, because I wanted the wood to have some kind of paint treatment. But now when I look at my trim, of course I'm short pieces, but I have a few ideas how to save the wood. But I'm thinking if I cover this, which is just another 5 centimeters down, that'll save a lot of work trying to repaint the bottom underneath after. I've cut the first piece to the length that I want, and I left it at the bottom so that we have some coverage of the door frame. It's not completely flat, and one side is curled up when it should have been just rounded flat to fit tight against the wall. So what I've done is I've flipped it around about 3 times, and I've come to the conclusion that the best way is actually to reverse it. So I have the thicker side that you would normally, the flat side that you normally put on the inside, I switched it to the outside. And the reason for that is because of the difference, the wall being sticking out more than the door trim, I need to have it in as much as possible so that we don't have this waggle, this wobbly kind of a feeling here. Where the gap is a little bit too much is at the top. So when I lift it up, then you can see I have another problem with this space. So where I have this very large amount sticking out, and I'm going to have to manage that. So I'm going to use my plan is to use my grinder, and I'm going to grind off. First I'm going to pencil it out to know where the frame is going to be, and then I'll use my grinder to try to take some of the cement surface down. Okay, so I just made a pencil line. I put the trim against the wall and drew a pencil line so I know how far out I need to go. But for the depth, basically, I know I need to try to make it more flush with this. The rest of it's not perfect either. It sticks out a little bit, but in this particular corner, it was really sticking out a lot. So when I put the piece on, it was just a huge gap on one side. So I trimmed the corner down a bit. I might have to take a little more off, but now I'm going to test it out to see how the trim fits on there. Oh, wow. Don't forget to wear a mask when you do this stuff. It's a lot of dust. We're going to tack it about here. And wow, looks like I solved the problem. Now you can see it's pretty consistent all the way down. The miter box is not wide enough to accommodate the width of this trim. The trim is 10 centimeters and maybe the miter box is 9.5 or something. It's very close, but cannot go inside. So what I did was I put a board at the back. You can see at the back of the miter box. And I've gotten a longer saw, so unfortunately I can't use that nice flat saw that they use for the miter box, but I have a longer saw that's an extra 10 centimeters longer that I can put through the track, and then on the outside of the box is where it actually cuts the wood. I went ahead and I cut the angles on the rest of the pieces for these last 4 or 5 doors. And when we put the first one up, it seemed a little out of whack, and I tried to adjust it and had lots of problems. So now I realize that because I'm not using the miter saw, it's not cutting perfectly straight. So I just waste a lot of time cutting those. Now what I do is I line it up on top of the box, the miter box, and I mark it with a pencil and draw a line. So that's what I've done here. So before I start to cut with the saw, lesson learned, now I can see a line. So I know that when it gets to the front, if the saw is bent a little to the left or a little to the right, I know that I need to make an adjustment. Just put the last door frame on. Of course I have to go around and dap everything, but burning the midnight oil here, you can see it's already dark outside. So working by candlelight. Late last night we finished the door trim, finally. It was a bit dark. You can get the idea of how the place is starting to look now, and it's quite taking on quite a nice effect. We're putting some DAP in the corners where the nails went in, and also filling the corners. So you can see some of the nails from the gun didn't go in completely either, and I tried to hammer them, but they just bend. You just basically try to fill the holes. I'm going to squeeze this a little bit so some more comes out. I'm going to just kind of gently try to wipe the surface off. I'm finding a circular motion seems to work slightly better. And voila. I noticed the insects had eaten away at the inside of this door frame, and I thought I would just remove one side of it, but I'm not quite sure now because it looks like they got up inside. It's quite a mess, and you can see it's been rotting away because it was eaten by probably termites.
Just hold me tight and don't let go.